Like it is practice, 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 and like again, it took me 3 years to crack Google. And like for some, it may come early. Some people like just out of college they get the job in such big companies. So it's just that it requires consistency, I would say. You have to like solve a lot of questions and just don't get demotivated when you're not able to solve that. Just watch the solution, come back, and like do it in a very relaxed way and not in a very targeted fashion that in this month I have to complete 100 or 200 questions. Don't make your targets in that way.
So, hello and welcome everyone. Hope you're keeping well and staying safe. This is Hafsa Anjum, and I am working as a community executive at Recro, wherein we are working towards building an exclusive community for developers to help you get connected with like minded people, build your network, and grow professionally. So, those who don't know about what Recro is, it is a developer focused platform helping developers to meet the right opportunity by connecting them with fast growing startups such as CureFit, Udan, Swiggy, Dunzo, etc. So welcome to Recro Talks again, and today we are doing an AMA on DSA and system design, where we'll be talking about the tips and how to get started and a complete roadmap over it, right? And our guest speaker for today is Abhishek Sharma. Abhishek is a back-end engineer with 3 years of experience. He has strong knowledge on DSA and distributed systems. He guides people on the topics such as interview preparation and tips, crafting the perfect resume, mentorship and how to start with DSA and system design, career guidance, and on company selection. So thank you so much, Abhishek, for joining us. You may go ahead and say hi to the audience.
So thank you, Rafsa, for such a wonderful introduction. And like I would just thank the audience to join us on a Saturday evening,
Yeah.
like taking the time out. So thank you, everyone. So this is Abhishek, and I'm working as a software developer at Google. So I'm joining you from Bangalore. So like this will be a basically a very interactive Q&A session. So Hafsa has crafted some questions for me, which will hopefully clear all your doubts that you have in mind. But feel free to use the chat box, the Q&A box to put in your doubts so that we
Yeah.
can prioritize that. So yeah, Hafsa, we can start.
Yes.
Shoot.
So before we get started, I would like to make some announcements. You can post your questions in the question section, and we will take them up parallelly to our Q&A session because this is a AMA. So you can feel free to post your questions in the Q&A tab. If you have any general things to ask, you can do it in the chat section. And people who are joining us from LinkedIn, you guys can post your questions in the comment section, and I'll make sure to take that up and present in front of the speaker so that you will not miss on your questions, and we'll make sure that your questions are answered. So we will be rolling out polls in between, so please do answer them and keep your notepad handy. And whatever you're learning from this session, post it on LinkedIn, tag Abhishek, tag me, and tag Recru, and we'll be good to go. So before we start, so the format of the AMA is going to be, I'm going to start with a few questions that we already have from the registrations, and the people who are joining us live, and the audience can post your questions in the Q&A tab so that we can take them parallelly. Right? Okay, Abhishek. So let's start with the questions that we already had before from the audience which registered us, and the questions on DSN system design. And we have few people who already like framed the questions and queries beforehand of this session. So well in advance. So let's go with the first question, and that says, how to develop problem solving skills? So as general as it sounds, I would love to hear your take on the same question. Yeah.
So I think that one question is a topic which a speaker can speak on like 4 or 5 hours straight. Like that is the intuition, right? Like you want to be a better problem solver if you are a software developer. They want to work in that area. So like even though the question is very generic, I would like frame answer into specific points. So that problem solving aptitude is not a easy thing to like just practice in a day or two. It will require consistency more than like the problem count which you solve. So it is not like that if you are solving 600, 800, 200, 100 lead code or GFG questions, that you are like you have that aptitude. It's just that more than the number, again, the number of questions, it is just that how regularly you are solving questions. So if you are solving, I would say 2 to 3 questions a day, and like maybe not zero, but at least 1 or 2 questions in the weekend, just to like keep your brain in the habit of that. I think that problem solving aptitude just comes to you. And again, like it is practice, practice, practice. And like again, it took me 3 years to crack Google. And like for some, it may come early. Some people like just out of college, they get the job in such big companies. So it's just that it requires consistency, I would say. You have to like solve a lot of questions and just don't get demotivated when you're not able to solve that. Just watch the solution, come back, and like do it in a very relaxed way and not in a very targeted fashion that in this month I have to complete 100 or 200 questions. Don't make your targets in that way. Just make it very atomic that I will just solve 1 or 2 questions in a weekday, or like what I used to do is like for weekends on Saturday, Sunday, I used to solve like 10 to 15 questions a day because that was the time, like that was a day and I had maximum time with me. So that would be that. Consistently keep on solving the questions.
Yep, I think consistency can take people a lot of places, and just 1 or 2 questions per day can, like, matter a lot. So I think that's a really good take on that questions. So yeah, and so the next question is how to start saying how much DSA is required and its importance in the industry.
Again, like I've seen people who have solved around 1,000 lead code questions and like are not able to crack good companies. And again, I've seen people who have around like 100, like solving questions is must. You'll have to practice a lot of questions. But I've seen people who have like solved around 100 questions and they have made their way. So basically, the number of questions won't matter again. Like it is a very false benchmark to like live by. But generally, like while you are practicing, I would suggest that solve around 400 to 500 lead code questions. And why lead code, like maybe we'll come to that question like later in the session. But general idea is solve 400 to 500 questions in such a way that even if at 2 a.m. if someone just wakes you in the night and asks you any 400 question among that, like when you pick any question among that, you're able to like tell that solution in the brute force way and the most optimized way. So that would be like 400 to 500, I would say, is a like nice benchmark.
Mhm. Yes. So while we go with the third question, I would also like audience to type your questions in the chat, be it your LinkedIn live that you're attending or Zoom live you're attending. So once we're done with the first set of questions, we'll go to the audience and pick up the questions. So make sure that you're not missing out on typing your questions too. Yes. So the next question that we have, Abhishek, is how to be an expert in DSA and learn system design.
Okay, so 2 questions are here, like clubbed together. So first, like let's just take them one by one. So first is DSA, right? So I will like dive very deep here now. Like this will be too long answers, and like you'll have a lot of points to note down, like for the audience. So keep noting the points as I mentioned. So like when we talk about data, like again DSA, 2 words: data structures and algorithm. Again, you like there are different ways to handle those. So first, let's say when we talk about DSA, so let's take one example. Let's talk about binary trees. Like it's a data structure which we use a lot in our coding. Like not in the industry, but it is used. And like to be very honest, I've used trees like coded in trees in my company also. Like for those people who say that tree and linked lists are not used in industry, it is used actually. So like coming back to the question. So let's say we have a tree. So we'll start with very basic, like how to construct a tree, what will be the structure of the tree, how you will traverse the trees, what are the kind of trees, what is the iterative traversal, what is the recursive solution for the traversal. So just very basic, just get to know the data structure. So first, as I said, like just start with the data structure, the underlying data structure. If it is a stack, then your approach should be how to implement a stack using a linked list, using an array. And again, like what are the different ways how to populate those stack again the queue, and then like let's say you are now familiar with some very basic steps of the data structure, then you can start with the algorithm which are used on the data structure. So let's say if it is tree traversal, then you'll start with basic traversal algorithms. If it is graph, let's say when we are in graph, so what we'll do, we'll learn about BFS and DFS. When we are talking about arrays, array is a different topic altogether. But again, if we are talking about arrays, there's binary search, there's sorting. So all the algorithm which apply to the data structure, we need to study all of them. Again, now you are comfortable with that data structure, or you know some basic bare minimum algorithms to live by that data structure, then you'll start by the applications where it is used. So when I say application, now again, like when it comes to interviews of big companies like the bank one, which you generally like see, they will the interview will be very specific to the application, and you yourself will have to identify what data structure and what algorithm you need to apply there. So when I say application, so when I say like we need to implement an undo operation on a file processing system like Google Docs or let's say Word, MS Word. So when I say undo, it should be very intuitive to you that I'm talking about stack. So that level of application will have to start practicing. And when you have now the data structure concept is clear, the algorithm part is clear, and the application is clear, then I can say that you know something about that particular data structure. And then you'll have to go through all the data structure which are used currently. So be it graph, be it linked list, everything will have some application. So that is why they are in the syllabus. So like do that. So that will be the data structure part of the question. Again, like if we talk about system design interviews. So system design interviews is a very gray area. Like not much people know about it, how they are taken. But I try to like first enlighten those like what system design interviews are. So basically, they are problems in general which are already solved. Like people have their idea, like it has been solved multiple times, and people have known solution towards it. Like generally, you won't be given a question which don't have a known possible known solution to that. So generally, they'll ask you to create some system, like create a logging system, create a rate limiter. So these are just some very basic but very standard questions. Create a cache. So again, system design is a very broad concept. So there's a LLD round and there's a HLD round. So again, like I have seen quite like people asking sources about that. So when I say like HLD, so that means high level design. So high level design to some people seems like it is a DevOps thing, but no, it is wrong. So it is a like Sway or SD like are involved deeply into that. So when we say HLD round, so basically what you need to do is that you have to create an architectural diagram of your solution. So let's say generally I was like in one of the interviews, like not the Google one, but in one of the interviews I was asked to create a hospital management system. So there, like when it is a HLD round, so I think like the best way to explain the HLD round is by example. So let's say if you are given a question that create a hospital management system. So how you will begin is like I'll tell you my experience. So first, the best way to challenge is that think of a database solution. That whether you want to create a relational database or you want to create a non-relational database. From there, you'll have to justify your choice of database that you are choosing like relational, then why relational and why not non-relational and vice versa. So let's say I stick with relational database and I justify that I'm using why I'm using that relational database. Then I will start with creating database schemas, multiple tables. And I'll tell that this particular database will be used in this particular service. Again, when I say service, questions again like relation on relation, the other set of questions which comes is that the choice of the architecture, will it be a microservice architecture or will it be a monolith architecture? So again, you'll have to justify your choice, that why you are doing the like solution the way you are doing that. So generally, like when you what I found is that people look for microservice architecture when like they are a startup, because their services are made like that. So generally, like you have created multiple schemas now, so you'll have to club those schemas into particular service. So that I have a hospital cataloging system. So that is one particular service. And there'll be some doctor management service or schedulers, something like that. So I have now, like after the DBs are ready, I'll have to group them into multiple services. Now, once I have those services, the next point of question generally comes is that how these services communicate with each other. So, like once I go, like I'll just like tell the audience, just try to grasp as much knowledge as you can. Keep noting down down these points, because this I may find it quite overwhelming at first, but this will be how your interviews are going to be conducted. So once you have like crafted that these four schemas will live in this particular service and this three five schema will live in this service, then basically the question interviewer will ask you that how these services will communicate with each other. And the communication is generally async or like synchronous communication. So again, you will have to put in your like points that if it is synchronous communication, then it is API to API calls. And if it is async communication, then you will require some pipeline. So basically, something to put in your messages. So basically, Kafka and all. So you'll have to like put in your answers there. Again, so system design round will also like the interview will ask you give you a lot of situations there. So generally, my idea is that the situations will ask like in a hidden fashion both async and synchronous communication. So your services will have to adapt to do both of them. So once that service to service communications are very clear, then the next step which I used to do was that I used to create APIs, that the interviewer gave me this 4 5 situations that I'll have to create a booking system, right? So basically, if the doctor is available or not. So for that, keeping those scenarios in mind, what all APIs I'm going to expose from which of the services, which will be public, which will be like just for our internal service to service calls. That will be the idea. So once that working solution, the APIs are also done. Next thing, then generally our working prototype, I would say, is now ready. Like once the API is done, that working solution is ready. Then the interview will start scaling the problem, that how will we manage our solution when the scale increases. So let's say from 1,000 users to 10,000 users to a lakh user to 1 million users. So keeping that in mind, you'll have to create your like you'll have to keep modifying your like first prototype solution. So basically database, they'll ask separately that how will you horizontally or vertically scale that database will appear. How will you create like increase, how will you scale the processing part of that? So you'll have to justify that. Once you have made your interview very comfortable that yeah, you are able to very clearly answer the scaling issues, then the next thing the interview will ask you that fine, that I'm fine with the with your choice of data, with your choice of architecture. Now tell me how will you monitor this if something goes down. So how the logging and monitoring works, will have to tell that. If something gets broken, how we are going to be notified about that. So all those things are generally asked as a HLD question. And like everything is very again very deep. Interview can dive in very deep that why again as I said, why relation, why non-relation. So every answer which you give, every justification which you give needs to be backed up by data and not just by emotion, that I have only worked in relational database, so I won't suggest a non-relational solution. So like you have to answer that. like in a very logical way. So that was the HLD part of our system design rounds, where you have to give the architectural idea of the whole system. So like now let's come to the LLD part. Now LLD rounds like people fear a lot, and generally I personally believe that these rounds are the easiest to crack because there are only 10 to 15 questions there, which are generally keep on repeating and repeating, or just some form of it. So generally, what LLD round expects you is to propose a work, like give a working solution, implemented, like implemented a working solution, be it any language of your choice. They want a running code, be it in Java, C++, and they want the code to be like production ready. It want to be modular, the highest standard of coding possible there. So like the question will be very easy in terms of complexity, in terms of coding, but you'll have to take care, like you'll have to take care of all the nuances, the coding nuances behind that. So some topics I'll tell in LLD, like what are the source. I'll come back to the sources later, but let's say LLD round generally, I'll give an example. So generally it is asked that design an API rate limiter, or let's say a better example will be design a cache. So when you code that cache, generally the interview, let's say, will ask you to design an LRU cache. But when the interviewer asks you an LRU cache, the notion which he have in mind is that it should be very modular, very pluggable, so that people can change. Uh, okay, so like if at any given point of time the interviewer can change the question from LRU to LFU, like least frequently used, or any other algorithm which the interviewer prefers, without much of code changes, you will be able to plug that logic into the solution. So you have to design a modular code in such a way that anything, any changes, like after the initial prototype is done, interviewer can suggest changes and you are able to adapt that solution to that level. So like if we talk about it, what is the mindset of the interviewer when he asks that question is that first of all, he checks for any design patterns which are used. So there are 13, 14 standard design patterns which the interviewer asks, which he have in the mind. So generally when I say cache, so the cache should be built in a strategy pattern way, because if at any given point of time I don't want to use LRU and I want to shift the strategy to LFU, I should be easily able to plug that LFU code without much change in the code. So if I'm asking a LLD question, I want to see some design patterns in my solution. That is the idea. Other thing which I would want to see is that again the design patterns and like goes in hand with the solid principles. So again, that a few solid principles should be there. Generally, like these are some these rounds are generally 1.5 hour to 2 hours long, and whatever the interview gives you, like that will take some time to code, right? So I haven't seen much modifications being asked by the interviewer, but they discuss the solution afterwards. Like verbally, they'll tell you that if I want to change this logic, how much line of code do you think you need to change in your solution? And they expect that that whatever answer you give should be a very minimum answer. That without much like change in the lines of code, you're able to fit any possible changes, because that's how the real life solution problem solving will work in that way. So this is the LLD expectation. Now, like while I was giving a lot of LLD rounds and machine coding rounds, like I think they are like similar only. So I call them in a similar fashion and interchangeably. So generally, like I have seen specifically these questions in Java, like if you're a Java interviewee, or if you have experience in Java, what the interviewer will ask you is generally they want to see multi-threaded solutions to be there. So there'll be companies like Oracle, Paytm, Atlassian, Amazon. So if by any chance, like I've given some interviews for Microsoft there also. So if I am asking you a LLD question, so I won't ask you the standard questions. I will ask you a Java question, straightforward. It will be a question to test your multi-threading skills, and generally it will be revolving around producer and consumer algorithm. So if you have some OS concept, and if you have, if, or maybe if you don't, just what you need to do is that go through like any of the documentation available, just memorize or understand the producer consumer algorithm, because generally what happens is that whatever the interviewer is asking to a Java developer will be a question of a producer consumer algorithm hidden in that form. And to give you a few examples, so like in one of the rounds, I was asked to that this like in an LLD round, the designer LLD solution for a hotel management system where I am a person, I give some order, and the hotel should be able to take orders in that. So whatever you design, whatever classes algorithm you choose, so basically it is a producer consumer algorithm because there will be some capacity to associated to that hotel or chain of hotels which you can serve. So again, so by any chance, if you have Java experience or you are applying to a company which is Java heavy, like VMware, Walmart, again adding to the initial set of companies, make sure you are very thorough with the producer consumer algorithm, because again, like if you're thorough with those, like you'll just have to add a few layers extra on just making it to your like making it suit to your problem statement, be it anything, hotel management system, hospital management system. I think a lot of these problems can be broken down into multi-thread solution. So like that is my take on that. Be very thorough with your multi-threading concepts for LED rounds, along with the design patterns and solid principles, which generally people forget. So again, DSA covered, system design covered, again inside system design, HLD and LLD covered. Sources I'll tell, like maybe after some time, but yeah, that is the entire flow of the whole question. So
Yeah.
yeah, again, back to you.
Yes, I think we do have questions from audience. So we'll be taking up the questions from the audience from Zoom first, and then we'll go with the
Mhm.
LinkedIn. So the first question is, which is the best classroom program to learn DSA system design in Bangalore? I think you're from
Mm.
Bangalore.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I'm working in Bangalore, but honestly, like I haven't seen anyone. Like I don't know, man. This classroom programs, I wasn't enrolled in any, and I don't think you require any classroom program. To be very honest, there is plenty of free or paid resource available online, which will guide you through that. So again, like if you're asking for classroom program recommendations, sorry, like I don't have any answer to that.
And let me browse through the questions.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have one from anonymous. So before Q&A, can you please start with roadmap and resources for DSA and system design?
Okay, I think roadmap we are very clear, like how the interviews are generally structured. Sources, I think yeah, I think it's high time we discuss the sources. So for my DSA, I solved extensively on Geeks for Geeks, like initially. Like I solved around 100 200 questions in GFG, and then I shifted towards lead code, and there I solved around again 100 to 200 questions there. And then like I used to do interview bit questions occasionally, like based on like they had a nice company wise rating. So just for extra practice, I used to do from there. So I think DSA practice from there is sufficient. Rather than again, like I'll just stress here that the number of questions won't matter. Even if you know 250 questions, 350 questions, anything, just try to have a very high level of conceptual clarity on those questions, because you won't be like chances are you won't be asked direct questions. There the questions will be like a mixture of two or three concepts, like as I recall my Amazon and Google interviews. So generally they won't pick any particular question from lead code, or they'll ask you. The question will be like will like as you as a person, if you're interviewing in those companies, you'll have to come up with four or five different types of problems and their concept to make a working solution in those rounds. So again for DSA, try to like make try to prepare in a combination sort of way, like solve lead code, solve GFG, interview bit. So basically, the idea is you'll have to be very familiar, you have to be very fast also, because like generally people skip this part, the speed which is required in the interview. So if you are like giving an interview for Google, I think 10 minutes, within 10 minutes, you'll have to like come up with a working solution and present the solution with a few test cases, right? So let's say I've solved a question in GFG, and while I was practicing in lead code, the same question comes again. Generally, people will try to skip that bit, having an illusion that they know the answer, but the same question will come to the person in the interview, and then the person won't be able to solve that question. Because generally people fall into this trap that when they are learning a concept, they have those references and they recall the solution, and that's why they are able to code it once. But like when they see 2 or 3 months later that question, they fall into that pit. So again, like solve a question in GFG, maybe after like try the lead code independently. Maybe use if you see the same question, try solving the same question in lead code and make sure that you are able to solve that in a lesser time frame, like in 5 to 7 minutes. Solve because and also like while you're solving, try to have a conversation with yourself, because the interviewer will ask you and hammer you with questions there, that why this and why not the other. Again, like you'll have to make the interviewer very clear that why you are going with whatever you are doing. So that was the DSA part of that question. So system design for HLD, I preferred the book by Alex Wu, very well written, very well authored book. And I think if you have some idea of working in a startup or maybe in a big tech company, you have ideas of some level of architecture. If you read through that book, you will be able to come up with nice solutions, nice scalable solutions just by reading that Alexo Volume One. Like I have read that only, and like people are saying the Volume Two is also nice. But again, like if you read any of those books, I think you'll have enough concept for giving the HLD rounds. For LLD, what I preferred was that you'll have to watch a lot of YouTube videos of how beautifully they are coding their solution, because just by replicating, I think you'll get to know that. There's a book on design patterns by like from Head First, so O'Reilly book, and that is a very good book to start you on that. So you can watch, like you can read that book. But if you're not into books, I would suggest that first scan that what are the LLD questions asked in the company. So you'll come up with 16, 17 questions which are repeated very heavily. Try to watch that solution in YouTube, and those solutions will be probably length, like the length would be around 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Watch that solution, try to re-implement, because if you are not able to re-implement that solution half an hour, then chances are very high that in the actual machine coding or LLD round, you won't be able to like cover all the scenario which the interval gives you, and that will be a very big red flag. You don't want to miss any of the scenario which the interview gives, because that is the least expectation in the LED round, that whatever basic scenario the interview comes with, that is probably very beautifully answered, and then the expectation is that they will try to break your solutions. So for LLD again, the design pattern by O'Reilly, a lot of YouTube videos, and I think Udit is doing a very great job there. Like I personally followed Udit's channel. Like he's an engineering manager at Amazon. So you can try watching his videos, like very beautifully explained everything. For multi-thing, so maybe you are a Java developer or not, but there is a very big fear which I find in people generally when they hear the term multi-threading. So like there's a Udemy course of 4 hours by Michael Kobinski. Like he's in Google, he's also a Google developer. So he have created a Udemy course of 4 hours, and that is a like there he have explained very beautifully the multi-threading questions. And again, like there are several YouTube videos on how to implement a blocking queue manually, non-manually, so that you can also take into reference. Because, as I said, if you are interviewing for a Java company or you are have some Java developer experience mentioned in your resume, chances are very high. LLD round will not be the straightforward questions for you. It will be purely based on multi-threading questions, or maybe mixing those straightforward API rate limiter or cache question with multi-threading concept, so that they ask you that how this will work on a multi-thread solution. So that will be like all the sources which I followed personally.
Oh, yes. So we also had a question around the resources for DSA, LLD, and HLD. I think you pretty much answered in previous with the previous questions. So I think we can skip that one from Kaushik. Yes. Okay, we have one off-topic question. So and that says, what does it take to be a front-end engineer at Google if you have around 6 years of experience?
Okay. So generally, like it's like I've only been around 2 months at Google, so I'll try to answer that question to the best of my knowledge. Like I've seen a lot of YouTube videos of Google developers. So basically, I think at Google we don't have much of a concept of a front end or a back end developer. People are software engineers here, and people do whatever they are asked to do on that time. So generally, like I'm a backend developer, but if the need says or if my team has front end jobs, we'll have to do that. So and also like things are very internal here. So your 6 years of experience might be like might mean nothing to Google because they have their own way of doing things around here. Again, like let's say if you want to join Google, so basically, yes, you'll have to have some idea of DSA because that is asked. You'll have front-end specific interviews also, but again, the first few interviews, 1 or 2 or 3 rounds, will be focused on DSA, like heavily on DSA, as like what they are asked for a normal backend developer. So yes, the DSA is very important. The same, the lead code questions, that 400 to 500 questions, and proper coming up with a very proper, concise solution is very important if you are a front end developer also.
So we'll go with the next question. And well, we have a lot of questions. So Abhishek, I'll just like read out the question. So let me know if you have answered it like with the previous
Mhm.
questions or not. And then we can skip
Okay,
to the next question, right?
sure.
So here Prince asks, how do I start my DSA journey? I'm a junior developer. Like, I think,
Junior PHP developer. So, okay. So interesting question, Prince. So basically, I will say that even though you are a PHP developer, get a secondary language like like C++, Python, or Java. Get comfortable in any of those languages and start coding end to end. So again, I'll just reiterate. I think the initial conversation was not very clear. So the roadmap is basically pick a data structure. Let's say I pick array. I'll know the basic in and out of array, what array actually does, and then I'll try to learn all the algorithm which focus this array. And after that, like let's say when I say algorithm, so I'll try to sort this array. I'll try to search in that array again, linear search, binary search, all the basic algorithms I'll try to use. And then comes the application. So I'll try to solve around 100 questions on array just to get familiarized with that application. Again, big graph. Once that basic graph creation is clear, that you can create a graph using an agency matrix or a list, and then you'll start with algorithms like DFS and BFS on graphs, why DFS and not BFS, like things like that. And again, like 100, around 100 questions covering those graphs. So that will be the entire roadmap. So data structure after data structure will have to be very clear. So first the data structure itself, then the algorithm, then the application. So that is the entire roadmap for one data structure, and we'll have to continue this for all the data there are like tries, trees, graphs, linked list, array, stack, queues, everything is asked and you cannot skip anything.
okay.
That's,
So let's go with the next question. I might lose a track.
hmm.
Okay. Someone anonymous, and they're asking, what should be the strategy for experienced developer with 5+ years of experience? What to focus on? Which platform to use? Do UI developer role also asked extensive system design questions?
So 5+ years of experience, I think yes, you will be asked. Not extensive, but yeah, as I said, you will be asked again that how are you presenting a scalable solution. And as I said, like the HLD round is not that technical in that sense as the DSA rounds are there, because the system design rounds have some place where you can go wrong, where there are no right or wrong solutions. So I think with system design rounds, what the interviewer generally is asking you is that how interested you are in computer science as a whole, how good an engineer you are with coming up those scalable solutions. So yes, you will be asked those questions, but again, you can like call out that you are a front end heavy engineer, but again, some basic expectation will be there from you also, because since you are in the industry for 5+ years, they are expecting that you have some idea, and like even though the answers are not perfect, but you'll have to call that out in the starting of the interview. And again, like this question I also get a lot, that I'm a 5+ years of experience guy and I want to crack the bank companies. I'm a 12+ years of experience guy. Almost a manager. I'll maybe promoted to a manager next year. What should I do? The thing is that at least 1 or 2 rounds you are also expected in DSA and algorithm. So you'll have to like at least pass the cutoff there. So you'll have to also prepare for DS in that sense.
Yes. So Utkarsh asked, can you please discuss the advices on how to revise DSA? Either we should make notes or solve questions repeatedly.
So this is a very nice question. So actually, I have 7 fat classmate notebooks here with me in Bangalore. Seven, like one classmate note is of this big and like this the fat one. So I have 7 of those just for my revision notes. So whatever question you solve once, like so I'll tell you. So there's a question in heaps that find the k maximum element. So generally that question have 5 or 6 approaches to solve that question, and only 1 or 2 will be the most optimized solution to that. So in my notebook, what I used to do is that I used to note down all, like this is the question, approach 1, approach 2, approach 3, approach 4, approach 5, approach 6, along with the time complexity, space complexity, and the trade-offs which every one of that had. Because like I was very clear that there are again 600, 800 questions to like solve, and once I've solved that question, I won't be coming back to that question probably ever. So, but again, let's say I completed my understanding of the data structure by watching a YouTube video. I found that video and I solved that question, and chances are very low that I'll be able to find the same question anywhere in YouTube. So whatever you study, do document that, because chances are that this is not the first time you will be giving that interview, and not the final time. So having those notes help you to come back to what you studied, and saves like a lot of time during the interview. So generally, like what happens is that recruiter will just call you a week before that. Hey, uh, Utkarsh, we have a slot open. Like, are you available this Saturday or this Sunday? So you won't be watching those videos again, or you won't be watching or scrolling down to your lead code submissions, right? So having all those questions in a proper chapter-wise fashion helps you a lot in revision, with proper justification and time complexity, again space complexity, everything, like why this approach, why not that approach, everything. So your notes is the best way to go.
Yes. So let's move on for the next question. And it says, which way we use like BFS or DFS while solving problems, like complete easy questions for all topics, then goes to medium, and same for hard, like that, or finish essay medium, hard for topic, then goes to next topic. Okay.
So like, yeah, so this is also a very nice question. So don't, what I would recommend is that once you're very familiar with the basic steps of that structure, you don't need to like see that question as an easy, hard, or medium question. Give it a try, fail one or twice. Like it doesn't matter because what I've seen is that some of the most asked hard questions have a very easy solution to explain and easy solution to code. And like it is, and like I'm totally confused at why it is in the hard section. So don't see that label. Practice in a mixed kind of way. It's okay that you start with the hard also. Why? Because let's say you the first question you pick it at a random order. Let's say linked list you stumbled in a hard question. Then what you'll do, you'll watch a YouTube solution with how the person is solving that question. So watching that generally hard questions have 30 to 35 minutes of videos explanations. So once you watch that 30-35 minutes content, you'll automatically be able to solve all the easy questions in that section. So don't focus on the label, just go for it. Don't see that label much. Generally, like if you are aiming for fan companies, the expectation there is that they generally ask medium to hard level of questions. So don't be terrified with that tag. Yeah.
Yes. So the next question is, I think he's asking to post the name of the book, and I think you kind of listed down the books that you read. That you read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'll
So
just be going with the next question, Abhishek. So if you can type the name of the book in the chat, so that would be
sure.
great. Right. So some anonymous person asks, are paid online platforms like Scalar Academy or LearnWay worth join and worth investing the huge fees for DSA system design?
So what I would say is that means their business model I would say is not bad. They are doing a very excellent job there. And like I have experiences with friends who have cracked very big companies with their help. But how that decision will boil to you that whether you should go with the course or not is that you reflect upon yourself that how good you are with the basic data structure. If you are someone like if by seeing the documentation or YouTube videos, that question just instantly clicks off and you're able to understand the basic level stuff very easily, then don't buy those courses. But if you think that, yeah, I don't have the time, that I'm a working professional, I am involved in XYZ activities, and somehow I'm not able to get a grasp of that, then I would recommend that, yeah, if I think that can be a good investment of your money, so you can consider that. And personally, I've recommended people to those courses because I knew that they were not good in like understanding those basic documentation. They had some data science background, like generally they were good like while they were with me in second or third year of college, but like it's been 3 years after college and they have stopped coding altogether. They are like working professionally in data science teams and they want to join us as SD. So I recommended them that they are now like in a position to buy those courses very easily, and that structured way of those institutes help them to understand it, and like with their job they can carry out that very easily. So yeah, depends on your introspection of yourself.
Yes. So Abir asks how to curate your CV so that you stand a chance to get a shortlisted first and then call for a Google interview.
Okay, so what I heard last, I think they are at hiring freeze. Like many people are posting and querying me on LinkedIn that they are actually they have cleared the interviews and they are in the wait list for Google. So, but again, like irrespective of that, resume making, I think there you'll find plenty of resources on the internet on how to curate that. But I think the most effective way is like what Google calls the XYZ principle. So basically anything which you have done in your professional or like maybe in college journey, so try to mention that in short sentences in XYZ format. So basically, if I have to give you some example, so I could like let's say I did a feature on let's say some discount strategy. So what I would write in my resume is that designed a scalable discount strategy solution which helped in which helped the company to retain its customer by X% or Y%. So that metric is very important. So generally people keep on asking me that how to get that X%, and how to get that this number that whatever I did help the company in 10% of customer retention or 5% better like 5% latency improvement, all that. So so I'll tell you. So like while I was working in my both my companies, so we had very responsible PMs and data analysts who were working very closely with us. So this is how the PMs define the success metric of a development. That if a PM is giving the developer a job that we want this feature, then the person will be responsible to define success metric. That if I am, he'll define some metric. He or she will define some metric there. And let's say if the metric is a success. So let's say if the PM will write that with this development, I'm expecting a 5% increase on our customer returns, a 20% increase in the revenue of the returning customer. So once that metric is fulfilling, that checkboxes are getting marked, you can put the same in your resume. But be sure that you don't put much of the confidential information there. That I was working in this particular code base, this. Don't be very alert that you don't expose your trade secrets there. So in a very simple way, in just 10 or 15 words, you did X, it resulted in Y impact with Z metric. So we call it XYZ principle. You can read that about like on YouTube and all. Also, one more thing, like since you asked, so basically, generally people fall into the temptation of putting like bulking your resume. So generally, like the resume go on till 2 or 3 pages. So that is, I think, I've seen people getting by, but it is not acceptable in general. So for create a one-page resume with a lot of white spaces. So generally, like even though people sometimes have one-page resume, they have a tendency that since I have only one shot at this job opening, I'll put everything and anything which I've done. Like I'll put all the tech stack which I've worked on, and this actually creates a negative impression on on the recruiter. So basically, guys, try to understand that the recruiter is generally a non-technical person, so your readability should be very high. So like they are not much interested. Like let's say if there's a Java opening, then obviously your Java experience will matter. But in general, like if you have a readable resume, enough white spaces, very high impact of work which you have done, irrespective of your tech stack, then you will call. So readable resumes are very important. One page resume, short points to the point. Don't put anything which is irrelevant. So generally, like I've seen freshers do this mistake. So they put all their coursework, like in their engineering, whatever 40 subjects they have studied. So out of that 40, they pick 10 and 15 they put in the resume. No, it's not required. If you are a computer science student, it is expected that you have gone through those subjects. So put only valuable content there.
Yes. So we can go with the next question, and that says, can I focus on quality over quantity in the case of solving problem like following some available DSA sheets?
Sorry, can you repeat?
So that's from Anonymous, and he says, can I focus on quality over quantity in case of solving problem like following some available DSA sheet?
Yeah, you can. Like it is always quality over quantity. Means, but treat it as a marathon. It's not like that you have solved 100 quality questions and you'll just keep on loop that 100 questions for the rest of your life. No, don't follow that approach. do 100 questions and then keep practicing new questions and make that like keep increasing the list in a breadth. First question like 100, 150, 200, 300, 500, 600 questions and keep revisiting those. So it's a very iterative process to increase. Like let's say I have 100 questions I've done. Now I'll target to solve next 50 questions and I'll revise the 150 questions altogether. Then I'll
Yeah.
push my limit to 200 and I'll like revise those.
Yes. Yes. Can you suggest a good one-page resume format template resume?
I think Novo Resume has a lot of that. So Novo Resume, I'll just write that. You can go to that website and check
Yep.
those.
Okay. So I think it's the last question from our Q&A tab. And he asked, if I have no experience in project development, but have some good DSA, so there are chance to select in Google. So he's asking if there's any chance of getting selected in Google.
So it's a tough call actually. If luck is very strong, you might, but generally what happens is that companies like Google generally pay like is very bullish on your previous experiences. So like it is highly unlikely if you don't belong to a very very good college like an IITs like some IITs like Google has very tough preference there. You'll have to have a very solid work experience to back your credibility. So like directly don't jump to Google. Like have a mindset that I'll crack Google within 5 years. Like I personally had like that in my mind that I'll have to crack Google in maybe 5 to 7 years, and that is a achievable target for me. And it was luck also that I managed it within 3 years. So basically, keep preparing. Whenever the luck is in your favor, you'll get through. And as you said, like the project development, as you said, means join a startup, any company which where you will code day in day out, so that you can add credible chunks to your resume. That will be my like answer to that.
Yes. So Abhishek, I think we are mostly done with the questions that people posted on Zoom. So let's go with the LinkedIn questions.
Hmm.
We do have a lot of people asking questions on the LinkedIn Live. So I think one of them is Rahul, and he's asking if nothing is coming in mind while solving DSA question, should we see the
Hmm.
solution over YouTube or try to solve?
Definitely, like struggle for an hour, but not more than that, because it is very intuitive that if you are not able to come up with a solution within 1 hour, it is very unlikely that you will be able to do that like in the rest of the time. So struggle for 1 hour, that is good for your mind, but one like after 1 hour, just watch YouTube solution. But if you are watching a YouTube solution, make sure you are like after watching that solution, you create a documented note from your memory. Like after watching the solution on your own, just create a note and try to re-implement that question in the lead code and come back and make sure that you're coming back to that question 1 or 2 weeks after that, because generally tendency is that if you are like coming up to a solution from a YouTube videos, chances are that you'll forget it within like next 10 days. So make sure that if you have watched that YouTube solution, make sure that you are coming back to that question to for revision.
Yes. So we have a question from Shivam, and he asked, how are the questions asked for JavaScript developers? So this is short, and I hope he's asking with respect to DSA system design.
So generally, like if you are a JavaScript developer, so generally like TSA question would be same. Like the language does not have any link to your choice of language. And generally, like if startups are very bullish on the JavaScript tech stack because we have the React and the Node and they work very beautifully hand in hand there. The entire JavaScript framework is like playing very good there. So data structure wise, you don't have like any discount. Then you have to go through the entire data structure tech stack in your comfortable language, that is JavaScript. System design, I think again the architectural design does not link anywhere to the JavaScript language. You have every design pattern available in JavaScript as is, but yeah, I think you'll get some discount in the multi-threading part of that. So that will be a nice choice there.
Yeah. So this question is kind of skeptical, but it says, does it matter to be from a startup or from a big MNC? So I hope that's respect to DSO system design.
And for what? Like, does it matter for what?
Yeah. So Rahul, you need to be a little more concise on your question. So yeah, let's go to another question, which says, I'm a front-end developer and want to learn DSA and system design. Please suggest roadmap. Is system design and DSA mainly needed for backend?
No, man, like I worked heavily in a startup where like I, along with a front-end developer, used to write code heavy in the data center algorithm, like for optimization perspective. And like my front-end developer, like who was working day in day out with me, was a little less comfortable in data center algorithm, but again, like he used to code in that. So it is very much required in front end also, not to the extent of tries and all, but yeah, it is required. And if you want to like start there again, the roadmap still remains same. Introspection that you are able to like understand those concepts with the basic documentation with basic YouTube videos. Else you'll have to join any organization which will help you in a little bit of handholding.
Yes. So we have a next question that says, can test engineer be hired as a software engineer in FANG-based company if we are good with DSA and system design?
You can start as a fresher. Like generally, like I have a friend who worked I think 2 years as a SDET in one of the startup, and then like he applied for a SD1 role at Amazon, and like with twice or thrice like increment in salary, like it was a 3x increment in salary, and he joined as a fresher there.
Hmm.
So generally, like that risk you will have to take. Depends on the years of experience you are willing to sacrifice.
Yep. And so Abhishek asked, I want to ask about the dynamic programming, how to build an approach for solving DSA question in bracket Android.
And so you are like in Android development, I guess. So DP, I think, is one of the most controversial topic around data structures. So like what I did personally was that I watched a lot of YouTube videos to get the intuition out of that. And then I used to keep practicing another like 100, questions. I think I've solved the most number of questions in DP only, like dynamic programming and stuff. So again, there's no one way answer to that. First, start by watching 50 to 60 questions of like YouTube videos of that. And once you are like you get a little hang of that, try practicing hacker rank. Try to solve the same question. Like once you've done 50 questions in hacker rank, try to solve that and lead code, so that you keep revisiting those your concepts get concretized on that terms. So like keep practicing, and it gets intuitive. Also, like I would just point out this out, like DP is mostly asked, like it's a like very hot topic in interviews, right? So this is like my personal story. So I'm also not very comfortable with DP. I am like I can solve questions in that, but like I think it would be my most like least favorite topic to be there. So generally, like what happens is that whenever the interviewer used to ask me DP questions, I used to spend 1 or 2 minutes there at whether I will be able to solve that question on my own or not. So I used to take 2 minutes. I used to like if it was an easy solution, I used to code that out. But by any chance, like everyone of us know that how deep in water we are. So right. So if you get that hint that it is a DP question, that is a weak area, you won't be able to solve it at all, and you don't want to spoil that interview, ask the interviewer for some hints. Like if you have practiced 100 to 100 questions of DP alone, little hints will like create big differences there. So like ask the hints early on. Like I've seen people like wait for half an hour into the interview, and at that time the interviewer also loses interest in you, and like he's just waiting for the interview to be over, and you are also waiting for the interview to be over so that you are free of the torture of sitting and doing there nothing. So within 5 minutes, take a call whether you're going to ask the interview for the hints or not. If it is a DP question or any hard topic which you are not comfortable answering with.
Yes. And Shivam says, I don't have exposure on CSS. Can I get a job in product-based company with the skills as Node, React, Express, SQL, and JS?
So product-based companies, yeah. So means if we leave aside FANG, there are multiple product-based companies who take you purely based on your skills. Swiggy, Zomato, Ninja Card. There are multiple startups which pay a hefty amount. Dream 11, CureFit, which will easily take you based on your React and Node skills, like in that way.
Yes. I think we have answered most of the questions. And yeah, I think the person who asked about the startup in MNC, he says like the company tag, does it matter if you're working for a startup or an MNC?
I generally think that people prefer people from startups these days because like they have like startup in startup it is believed that you have done a lot of heavy lifting there. You are more prone to new ideas, will bring a lot to the table if a person is from a startup. So the tag I would say actually do matter. See, if it is a very small startup of 10, 15 people who have no one have heard of, then I think it is a bit of a risk. But let's say if it is a very like popular startup like Dunzo, I think they have 100, 150 people in their team. But again, it is a very popular brand. So if you are a part of a branded startup, I think that will be more helpful to you. Again, so when you are term the word startup, so MNC startup will be considered as equal if the other product-based companies believe them that they are solving good questions, they are solving good problems as a whole. So be a part of a startup who is like very good in brand recognition.
Yes. So we have one more question that says, for experienced developers, is it important to be good in using solid principle over DSA?
So yes, but not over DSA. You will be expected to know the DSA solution, but you'll have to apply solid.
Hmm.
Yeah, so because there's no, it's not a easy way out that, okay, my solid principles are good, I am able to come up with very nice modular code, but I'll skip the DSA part. No, it's not like that. So generally what the expectation will be from you is that with the minimum number of hints, you'll be able to code the solution, a very beautiful DSA solution in a very highly reusable modular fashion there is. So the expectation will be higher from you. You won't be getting discounts on that.
Yeah. So one more question which says, can you please share design system, Java, multi-threading source in LinkedIn? So I think he's asking for the
I think I
source.
I think I did already in this Zoom channel. I think you can copy paste those. Okay, I'll
Yes.
just call it out. So basically, for design patterns, I told head first, like O'Reilly book there is for design patterns. For system design, there's Alex Zou's book, and for multi-threading, I'll just share the link. Uh, 1 second on the chat itself.
So for the head first, it's design patterns, and I'm just like going to reply it.
But like don't consider this like books only. Try to watch a lot of YouTube videos of like there are some amazing content creators which will help you like to implement those concepts. Like these books will talk about concepts only, but how to implement that in a working model, like that YouTube solutions will help. So I've pasted the multi-threading video course which I personally followed, and I believe that that is a very good course for multi-threading there is.
Hmm. Yes. So Abhishek, I think we are done with most of the questions. So guys, if you're having any questions, we would love to take it last minute. And please post your questions as soon as possible, or else I think we'll be good to go here for wrapping up the session. Yeah. I'll just have a quick check if we answered all the questions in LinkedIn or not. And also, I think we answered most of them on Zoom. Yeah, Vinayak, I think the link uh, Abhishek has posted in the chat, so you can just go ahead and have a quick see through of the link in the chat. Yeah, so I think we are done with most of the questions, Abhishek, and I don't think so we are left with any more questions. Well, that was the last question, and that brings to the end of this wonderful session. I would like to thank each one of you for joining us. Hope you learned something new from this session. We will look forward for your post of your learnings and takeaways from this session. And don't forget to tag Abhishek and tag me on your post. Also, thank you so much, Abhishek, for joining us. It was awesome having you. Thank you for taking out time and sharing such an insightful information with us.
Yeah.
And before we end the session, I have few announcements to make. So we have created a community for developers called Rebase on Discord. That's a closed community for JavaScript developers to unleash your true potential. If you are someone with 1+ years of experience, you can get a chance to connect with the fellow developers, get career opportunities, connect with experts, and ask for help in the community. You can join our Discord and say hi to everyone over there and connect with people and start helping others and also asking for help if you're struggling with anything. So I'm dropping it in the Zoom chat, and we'll be more than happy to have you in our community and then make sure of providing you all the personalized community features. Yeah. So we have made a LinkedIn post about this session. Do comment your learnings in this post. The link of the post is in the comments again. So quickly go there and leave out your learnings and takeaways. Let us know how did you like the AMA from Abhishek, and we would love to have him for further more sessions. And let us know what's something that you want to have in AMA for our next topic. And if you want Abhishek to cover something in detail about system design and DSA, we would love to have him on board again. And if you have more questions, you can connect with Abhishek on LinkedIn. And I'm dropping the LinkedIn link in the chat of the Zoom. You can quickly go connect with Abhishek. He'll be more than happy to assist you guys and help you out with the queries. And if there's anything that you want to ask post the webinar, you can also go ahead and connect with him and ask him. So if you're exploring career opportunities, Recro is hiring passionate developers. Check out the current openings at Recro, called recro.io/careers. And I'm also dropping the link in the chat of Zoom. If any of you guys are looking out for the openings, or if you think any of your friend or colleagues are looking out for the openings, you can share the link with them, and we'll make sure of placing you in the A-grade startups of the country. So to stay updated with such event, you can follow us on social media. You can also see the live of this AMA on YouTube and LinkedIn. And you can go and follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. And we'll make sure of getting you more insightful and engaging sessions like this, and getting amazing speakers like Abhishek. So that's all for the session, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you in the next session. And thank you so much, Abhishek. Thank you for taking out time and
Thank you.
having
Thank you for
a AMA
having me
with us.
here. Sure. Okay, guys, prepare well.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great weekend.